Welcome back to another unboxing of Magic the Gathering at AwesomeCGG. This is Jeff. I'm a regular here at the shop. I do an unboxing for most sets for the shop, just with product that I purchased from them. Today we are looking at a Phyrexia All Will Be One collector booster box. Little background on the set, if you've been paying attention in the previous ones we've had, we are almost through a storyline involving new Phyrexia. The Phyrexians are these Geiger-esque, Hellraiser sort of creatures that are the oldest bad guys in Magic, going way back to the beginning. New Phyrexia is the result of a number of mistakes made along the way. There was a planeswalker named Karn. He's a golem made out of silver, and he accidentally tracked some Phyrexian oil to a plane that he tried to make from scratch. And in the process, it was corrupted and became New Phyrexia. It had been Mirrodin, and it is now New Phyrexia. Since then, the Phyrexians have taken it over, they've remade it in their own image, and now they're reaching out across the multiverse to try and put everything under their control, hence All Will Be One. We're going to talk a little bit about lore, a little bit about history, a little bit about what cards may be useful where, and a little bit about finances as we work our way through this box. We have 12 collector boosters, and I'm going to set these off to the side. Let's get started. So I'm having more difficulty with this than I expected. Let's do this so that we do not damage the cards inside. So as per usual, we're going to have special treatments of various sorts. I believe this looks like, yep, these are boosters that were printed in Japan. So, well, normally I would go through these and go through the commons and then get to the spicy stuff. They're actually collated in the reverse order. So we get the spicy stuff first, and then we're going to move back to some of the commons and uncommons as we work our way through. So let's start off here. Oh, well, that's a heck of a hit. This is a Traxa, who is an angel who was corrupted by the powers of Phyrexia. There is a previous card involving her that is very popular in Commander. This one is also likely to be popular in Commander, and probably going to be a good cube card as well for those of you who like to cheat out powerful creatures in cube. Besides all the keywords here, when she enters the battlefield, you're going to look at the top 10 cards of your library, and for each card type, you can put a card of that type from among the revealed cards into your hand. So even if she gets removed from the board right away, just bringing her out onto the battlefield is going to completely refill your hand with a lot of useful stuff. This is an Ichor treatment. Phyrexia makes a lot of references to oil because of the Phyrexian oil. So one of the special showcase treatments this time around is to have this oil slick look, which they refer to as the Ichor treatment. We have another special treatment here. Here's a manga style treatment for one of the planeswalkers. Now, some of the planeswalkers have actually been corrupted by Phyrexia. Some of them just got treatments as a what if it happened to them. So there are 16 manga treatments in the set, 10 planeswalkers, 5 legendary creatures, none of whom actually were corrupted in the story, but the idea is what would they look like if they did, and 1 manga treatment for Elesh Norn, who is the ultimate leader of the Phyrexians this time around. So there's Kato, Dancing Shadow. This gives us our first fancy foil idea. This is referred to as Step and Complete. You've probably seen fancy foil treatments in other card games before, and in fact, if you were paying attention during our Infinity unboxing, they had what they call the Galaxy foil treatment. Here we've got the symbol of Phyrexia, which is pretty much just a Greek letter Phi, on Okiva, Enigma, Goliath. So we have an Ichor treatment with the Step and Complete foil treatment. Here we've just got Ichor treatments on an uncommon and a common, 1 foil, 1 not. We have a card from the Commander set, Containment Grafter. We have an extended art, Monument to Perfection. We have a regular foil, Azuri, Stalker of Spheres. And we have a foil basic land, in this case, an island. I can show you quickly the commons and uncommons as we move through them, but there's a lot to go through here, and I'm going to try to talk about things besides just value, so let's not spend too much time on the commons and uncommons. I promise I'm trying to be careful with that blade, everyone. All right. So once again, we've got a Phyrexian Might. There's a lot of teeth in this set. I mean, you can see those, but there's teeth in the arms, and there's teeth in the arm. It's just creepy. It's so creepy. And a samurai token made by the Eternal Wanderer. So we've got Urabrask's Forge. Urabrask or Urabrask, I've heard it pronounced both ways, is the one leader of New Phyrexia who kind of is going his own way. They're all constantly fighting with each other for dominance. But he's the one who says, okay, I'm like, we don't actually have to turn the entire plane into this horrid hellscape. I want things to be my way, but you can also be individuals. All right, we've got Skrelv, Defector Might. I wish that we had gotten more story about this little thing. Apparently it's a might that wants to go against Elesh Norn. We didn't get too much story. Toxic One is kind of like the old Poison or the old Infect, but a little bit different. When this thing does combat damage to a player, that player takes the normal damage, but also gets a poison counter. If that player ever has 10 poison counters, they lose. So this is going to be an interesting card. We have an uncommon with a Step and Complete foil treatment, a Mere Convert, and also in that Ichor style. A Bonepicker Scourge, a Sawblade Scamp. I have a Phyrexian Angel from the Commander set, Norn's Choirmaster. These are the kind of angels that you never, ever, ever want to meet. One of the spiciest cards from the entire set for various formats, Venerated Rot Priest. It has Toxic 1, and it's a 1-drop. Okay, that's fine. But whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell, your spell or other players' spells, target opponent gets a poison counter, which means if you can find a way to storm off or otherwise accrue value over just a couple of turns, copying spells, casting multiple spells, as I said before, using Storm to get multiple copies of something that would target the Rot Priest or another creature you have, all of a sudden you can get 10 poison counters on your opponent pretty quickly without ever actually doing combat damage to them. A lot of brews happening around this card. Conduit of Worlds is a bit of a callback to Crucible of Worlds. It's got a similar effect. You can play lands from your graveyard, but it also has choose target non-land permanent card in your graveyard. If you haven't cast a spell this turn, you may cast that card. If you do, you can't cast additional spells this turn, activate only as a sorcery. It's a little bit more restrictive in terms of deck building than Crucible of Worlds is, since Crucible of Worlds is 3 generic mana, and this is 2 green, but it's still going to be a pretty powerful card in a lot of ways. We have a gorgeous and yet freaky mountain, and then we work our way through the commons and uncommons. This one I'm going to hold up real quick, though. Even though it's just a common, that is a heck of a pacifism spell. All right. Good news is I'm getting better at opening those. We have Rebels. There are equipment in the set that are going to enter the battlefield, and when that equipment artifact enters the battlefield, it creates a token and attaches itself to the token. This is the kind of token that it creates when that happens. I should probably pay a little bit more attention, and I will point it out next time I see one of those. We have an extended art foil synthesis pod. We have, oh, they did my girl dirty. Vraska, Betrayal Sting. Here is our first manga treatment of a planeswalker who actually does get completed, which is the process of making one into a Phyrexian. It used to be that planeswalkers couldn't be completed, but as of the set Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, the Phyrexians have found a way, and they do it to quite a few planeswalkers this time around. This is in the lore, she's my favorite planeswalker, so I feel bad that they got to her like that. We have a Rustvine Cultivator, step incomplete, a Sinew Dancer, a Bladed Ambassador, Roar of Resistance, Argentum Masticore. Here is our first Dominus or Domina. There are some big old creatures this time around that are Phyrexian horrors that all have similar things. They double up some effect. In this case, at the beginning of each combat, you double the power and toughness of each creature you control until end of turn, and they have some way of gaining indestructible. The green one here doubles power and toughness, and you sacrifice other creatures to make it indestructible. There's another card that doubles non-combat damage that you deal, and can discard cards and pay Phyrexian mana to give itself indestructible. If we get to any others, we'll talk about them. I should probably note here, we've got two different kinds of lands. There are these lands, and then there are these lands that actually have Phyrexian writing on them. Recently, Wizards of the Coast released a translation guide to show you how that actually says forest, and this somehow says basic land forest or something along those lines. But they're metal. That is definitely a hardcore basic land. I'm personally excited for that card, but we don't need to spend time on it. Oh, okay, we're going to stick with this common just long enough to note. Here is for Mirrodin. When this equipment enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 red rebel creature token, then attach this to it. So it's a 2-drop that brings in a 2/2, which, when this auto-equips, becomes a 3/1, and then it only costs 1 generic mana to equip it to something else on a future turn when your 3/1 dies. I'm trying to think if I'm missing any major... Oh, I could maybe talk about Corrupted if we come across that keyword. I think that's mostly going to be uncommons and uncommons, so I'll take a look for that for people who may be interested for limited purposes. I don't think Corrupted is going to make much of a difference in constructed formats, but it is going to matter if you, say, show up here for pre-release or a draft. An Evolved Spinoderm in an Ichor treatment. Malcator Purity Overseer. I just love this type line. Legendary creature, Phyrexian Elephant Wizard. Oh, well, that's fancy. So this is Luca, who is in fact completed. Step and complete foil and Phyrexian language. It's a little hard to see there, but you can see that this is not even close to English. So that's an interesting hit. I'm going to be honest, I have no idea what the value of something like this is, but it just looks dang cool. We have a couple of these. We have Urtet, Remnant of Memnarch. So you've got your Mirror Lord, those of you who like to play Mirror and have been looking for a 5-color Lord so that you can include all of them in a thematic EDH deck. Vindictive Flamestoker. This makes reference to oil counters. That's mostly going to be a thing for limited. There are no +1 or -1 counters in the set, so the only counters you're generally going to be using in a limited game are oil counters, which you remove or add or transfer to do various things. They're just another resource that you can use. We have a Copperline Gorge. These lands are back. That's a nice foil one. We've got, I think we already pulled that same art for that island. Here's a text with Corrupted, which Corrupted means the same thing every time, but it has a different effect depending on which card the keyword is printed on. So corrupted is as long as an opponent has 3 or more poison counters, full stop. That's corrupted. 3 or more poison counters on the relevant opponent. If that's the case, and viral spawning is in your graveyard, it has flashback for 2 and a green. So it's a way of giving you a reason to put poison counters on an opponent, even if you're not going for the poison win. I had said before that if your opponent has 10 poison counters, they lose the game. That's not always the easiest thing to do, and in fact, in some cases, whether limited or constructed, you're just going to kill them faster with regular damage than you will with poison counters, but you may still accrue value over time if you can get them to 3. All of a sudden it starts turning on other effects for your creatures. Here's Kemba, Ka Enduring. Kemba was not actually completed in the storyline. This is one of the legendary creatures with a what-if manga treatment. Here is actually the other Dominus that I made reference to. This is the one, if a source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals double that damage to that player or permanent instead. I'd love to see this with like a sulfuric vortex so that you're hitting each opponent for 4 every turn and it still only hits you for 2. That would be kind of fun. The Bone Picker Scourge with the Step Incomplete treatment. There we go. Mirror Convert, Mirror Convert. Clever Concealment. Convoke. Any number of target non-land permanents you control phase out. And remember, Convoke means you can tap creatures you control of the appropriate color to pay for 1 or a color in order to cast this. So possibly free phasing out for all your stuff. That could be very, very useful. We have a Tablet of Completion, which does a lot of things with oil counters. A Dragonwing Glider. Here's another 4 Mirrodin equipment. That's going to kill people out of nowhere in limited. It might be useful in other formats too. Probably not something as powerful or fast as Modern, but you may see something like this making a splash in Standard. Don't hold me to that, though. That is just gnarly. I love it. We are not quite halfway through, so we're going to move along. Might and a might. Green Sun's Twilight. This is also the buy a box, if I remember correctly. There was a cycle of cards that were, so there are 5 suns that circle Mirrodin now, New Phyrexia, 1 for each color of mana. And so you had Green Sun Zenith, Black Sun Zenith, things like that in previous sets. Now we've got Twilight, where there are these huge representations of the leaders of New Phyrexia hunting the sun or holding it up or reaching for it or other things. And they have various effects. That is a pretty Blackleaf Cliffs. Fastlands again. We have a Furnace Punisher, Necrogen Rot Priest, and another Necrogen Rot Priest. Geth's Summons, Norn's Wellspring, Malira, the Living Cure. We're hoping, if you're at least cheering for the good guys, that she, who is immune to that corrupting influence of the Phyrexians, can do something to help Phyrexia, save the Planeswalkers who have been completed. We're not exactly sure. It doesn't seem to be working right now based on the stories that have been released. All right, and now we have a mountain in that very metal look. I'm holding this up just long enough to say that's a bird. If you've ever wondered how messed up New Phyrexia is, that's a bird. Okay. Now we are about halfway through. Apologies for the delay there. That one was kind of a sticky pack. We have a Zenith Chronicler. I think that I've pronounced the word Zenith and Zenith in one recording, so somebody can yell at me later. Archfiend of the Dross, a Phyrexian demon. It enters with 4 oil counters. It's a 6/6 with flying. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove an oil counter from it, and if it has no oil counters at that point, you lose the game. But it's a flying 6/6 for 4 mana, and whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, its controller loses 2 life. So, especially if you've got ways to keep putting oil counters back on this through Proliferate or another means, that's not as much of a drawback as you would think it is, even though it literally says lose the game. Sinew Dancer, Step Incomplete, Sinew Dancer, Strawblade Scamp, Mirage Mockery, a Dragonwing Glider with extended art, another Green Sun's Twilight, a Swamp, and then we just show off some commons and uncommons. As you can tell, I'm working on picking up the pace here. All right, we have Vran, Executioner Thane. The Eternal Wanderer, I mentioned her earlier. We're very happy that she was not completed. She's the one who makes those samurai tokens. Here's a Step Incomplete Skrelv. In the bigger format, Quicksilver Fisher, Quicksilver Fisher. Glimmer Lens for Mirrodin, doesn't have the reminder text since it's extended art. The Mycosynth Gardens. Phyrexian Obliterator is back. Trample, 5/5. Black, 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 black for the casting cost, and whenever a source deals damage to Phyrexian Obliterator, that source's controller sacrifices that many permanents. If you play mono red, and you end up with one of these on the battlefield across from you, you probably just scoop. Forest, and then Terramorphic Expanse instead of Evolving Wilds. I know some people who have been waiting for that. So for all of you Terramorphic Expanse stans out there, your dreams have come true. They finally put it back in instead of just another Evolving Wilds. All right, we've got a foil Borderless Darkslick Shores. Rhea Evor, Bane of Bladehold, which I'm pretty sure is supposed to be a reference to Hero of Bladehold, which was a card from Scars of Mirrodin. Somebody correct me in the comments. I want to say that card was released during Scars of Mirrodin, but I may actually have that wrong. We've got a Necrogen Rot Priest, Step Incomplete, Scamp, Anointer. Hey, it's a Phoenix Lord. Flying, lifelink, haste. Whenever it attacks, you get an experience counter. Then create a 2/2 red rebel creature token that's tapped and attacking for each experience counter you have. That is a pretty darn cool Boros commander. I'm not gonna lie. White Sun's Twilight. Zenith Chronicler again. Pretty Land again. And I don't think I want to talk about any of those, so we're moving right along. All right. Oh, there she is again. By the way, that was my Midwestern ope. Have lived more or less all over the country. I have never quite gotten rid of the ope. There's Vraska in Phyrexian. Copperline Gorge, Blight Belly Rat, Thrumming Bird is back, for those of you who remember Thrumming Bird from way back when. Phyresis Outbreak, commander card. Red Sun's Twilight. Slowbad used to be a hero, then he took some oil to the knee. A Mountain. That's about all we're going to say for those. We've got 2 packs left. We're cruising right along. Unless I see something absolutely necessary to comment on, we're just going to finish this off. We've got another Vindictive Flamestoker. I can speak, I promise. Here is Tyvar, who you may remember from Kaldheim manga treatment, was not actually completed. This is, again, a what-if manga. We have a Vran with the Steppen complete. We've actually gotten a higher than average number of rares with the Steppen complete treatment in this box. Sinew Dancers, Lux Artillery again, the Seed Core, which I'll comment on very briefly for story purposes. In the set Kaldheim, it was based on, more or less, on sort of a Norse mythology and setting, which means, of course, there was a world tree. And the world tree in Kaldheim reaches across all the various locations therein. Well, the Phyrexians got a hold of a seed and grew their own twisted version of it, which can reach into different places in the multiverse. And so they have this, which is the seed core, and it's allowing them, as the story progresses as we speak, to reach into basically every other plane and send their agents, their armies, and try to take them over and convert them into more little new Phyrexias. Oh, that's kind of fun. So we got a foil one. Ooh, we've almost finished these off. We've got an island in that metal treatment. And we're good there. All right. Last pack, everybody. All right. We've got Kaya, Intangible Slayer, in a foil manga treatment. She also was not completed in real life. Oh, I have a friend I need to send this to. Karumanix, the Rat King, Rat Lord. Toxic 1. Other rats you control have Toxic 1, and when this enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal any number of rat cards from among them and put the revealed cards into your hand. Put the rest to the bottom of your library in a random order. Whether this is in the 99 or it's the actual commander of a rat tribal deck, this is such a good thing to have. Our last step incomplete is a Rustvine Cultivator. We have a Thrumming Bird, a Blake Belly Rat, a Goliath Hatchery, Mirex, Rhea Evor, and another Swamp in the Super Creepy treatment. Do I need to say anything about these? I do not. So, as always, thank you for joining us. Hopefully I didn't go through that too quickly. Hopefully I didn't go through that too slowly. Hopefully you learned a little something along the way and feel like you have a better handle on what's in the set, what you could possibly pull from special boosters, and a little bit about where the story has been and where it might be going. We will see you next time, everybody. Hope you can make it here sometime soon.